Well, for those in Messiah, those who have the Father's Spirit, every word applies, even though knowing we don't know what we need to know in the days ahead, should come to an understanding that every word is to be lived and it's for us. So put in the description the abomination of dispensation. I thought that might have been the title, but maybe some other time, I don't know. Don't plan anything. Planning things in concrete without the Father's will is only a delusion. Only being tricked into thinking he can do whatever he wants. He can do what man can do whatever he wants and be delusional and completely blind. Then that's how man can do whatever he wants in his own mind, is to also be in a delusion and blind, meaning that they can't do whatever they want. Because how can someone do what they want and said, I did what I wanted, if at the end their whole life was a delusion? They didn't do what they actually want, whatever they wanted, did they? Because when someone says that in their mind and heart, they're not thinking about being in a delusion. They don't believe it's the opposite. Someone that's God in their heart doing whatever they want in their own heart, thinking that they can do that, doesn't believe they're in a delusion. But I'm only talking about reality. So then at the end, if someone's life was an utter deception and delusion, quite the shock on Judgment Day, then they didn't do whatever they wanted. They were tricked because they tricked people continually and lied and robbed temples. A lot of tricksters, a lot of false prophets, just like we read it would always be, but always true. That's what's not perceived by those who don't know him, is that every word is always true. And there's a spiritual understanding to be understood and lived. Moses being a type of Messiah. Messiah has already come in his people, in that the Spirit is poured out on his people from above, and ultimately from the Father, the Spirit of the Father and in Messiah in us, like we can read. And so the Father and Messiah has come down to his people, as Moses comes down to the people and teaches them commandments and laws and how to get out of this world, how to get out of the bondage of corruption, slavery to sin. There is no other liberty to be spoken of. There is no free will liberty, but liberty of the law, which is not understood by carnal Jews. And they trick people, and they may be the most deceptive people on the earth because they get the closest to saying some right words more often than the church world and Christianity. They'll say more right words on the surface, but if they don't have Messiah in them, everything is dung. And that's why the apostle says that, well, compared to Messiah in us, everything is dung, because we can't do it. We'll just be in a delusion like he was. Not understanding, not being taught by Messiah on keeping the commandments in the heart and what they mean for the heart and not letters only. No one else can do that except what the Father has declared and made to be, which is through Messiah, the true teacher. You only have one teacher, he said, and the Father and Messiah are one in spirit, not some monstrous beast, some five-headed beast, two into one literal, Trinity delusion, but one in the spirit. So one true teacher. And that meaning, when he says that, can't actually be taught the Father's truth by anyone else except through the Father and Messiah, Father through Messiah. But if someone's called teachers, like we can read in Scripture, There's an understanding for that, rightly dividing from one true teacher. The little teachers don't teach anything. They only ought to do whatever they ought to do, whatever the Father tells them to do. And there's no script right out. This is what you do. This is your full-time job. Here's the money you'll make, and this is what you do. Deceive people and get paid for it. No, only to hear his voice and follow him. That's it. That's what it is for believers. Not getting into, out of a wicked heart and nosy, greedy, envious heart, what the master is doing to another servant. Like we can read that one of the disciples says, what about this man? What about this man? He's wanting to. The point is not about some literal thing that would happen at the end. It's a teaching that applies all the time for all things concerning this, getting into what the master is doing with another servant. He says, what's it to you? Yeah, don't worry about him. You follow me. That's what it is for his people. So what is the opposite thing? Nosy, extremely nosy, coming in, creeping in unnoticed, trying to control people. That would be the opposite thing. Trying to find out every little detail in your life, as I've experienced. Hardcore, blinded, not seeing what I needed to see until some time later, and then looking back and the Father just showing me things, remembering words, remembering things, and going, wow, that's what that was. Trying to figure out every little detail in life, trying to control someone, trying to put them into slavery because they're still in slavery. These Messiah's people cannot be doing that. If someone is being freed and is being freed and being freed continually, they cannot be doing that. They cannot be trying to control people. That's what this world does. That's what the God of this world does, is control people. Try to control people constantly and know what's going on. When so-called friends ask, what's going on? What are you doing? What's new? What's up? What are you doing? What's this? What's that? It's no love at all. It's zero love. It's only an envious, jealous, nosy competition for children to fight against and hate each other. And if one buddy, so-called, because there is no buddy in the devil. There is no actual love there. It's just a delusion. They don't love each other. They don't have the Father's love. But something so simple, so quickly rejected by the prideful lion, the lion kings. There's always, wherever there's a pack, there's usually a lion king in the pack. And I've seen this judgment, this thing where the reason why people get stuck like that and listen to the lion king is because they're being judged and can't get out of it. But the Father makes some people run away. So then people will think, for them to believe a lie, that it's your choice and it's possible to just run away whenever you can from an abusive relationship or whatever, No, it's not. If someone ran away, that's part of the Father's judgments. Whatever he's doing with that person or people is the only reason they could run away, which makes people believe that you can do this out of your free will whenever you want, which makes people condemn people when they don't. Point the finger and blame and condemn them as wicked because they're trying to cover their own sin because they see the same thing in themselves. So I've wondered in the past, maybe others have too, about this specific thing on why someone just hangs around like a really abusive relationship. Why would someone keep hanging around? Because it's a spiritual judgment. It's like they're trapped. They can't get out. For some reason they fear the monster that abuses them and stick around. And then there's some, there's some that, like, will, I guess, run away, but they're afraid to, because if they try to run away, you know, they might get killed. Something worse might happen, or maybe the kids will get killed or hurt. Who knows what, whatever someone's afraid of. This is a hard time, judgment. And the way he judges is the way he judges, but just seeing a little piece of whatever he's given me, concerning why this happens, already even experiencing it. There's like, they cast like a spiritual spell through the power and lying wonders of Satan, and you get stuck. That's why we always have to rely on the Father for all things, and Messiah for all things. Getting away from this rebellion and free will nonsense. All the Father has to do is say, let it be, and so it is. And someone is blind and stuck, to show his power. He has to show his power in all of the earth, using the Egyptians and the plagues and miracles. Well, he's been doing that ever since, for those that given to see. Those that do not see don't see his wonders and his signs, because he shows wonders and signs to the Israelites. Yes, he does. But we're not looking for the same wonders and signs like that. That's not the spiritual understanding, the spiritual signs and wonders, all things spiritual and spirit. He does show his people these things, and it's for them, because the world won't believe it. An unbeliever that doesn't know him won't believe it and doesn't see these things. If they were to see something, they wouldn't believe it anyways. They would cast it off as some coincidence or this or that or whatever they do, the mind and heart. And so there's, I know some family across the states on the east side, and there's a Lion King in the pack, and they're all like sort of together, the family. And for whatever reason, this man can seemingly do whatever he wants. But he's not doing whatever he wants. It's a delusion. The heart's not changing. It's in sin. It's not overcoming sin. At the end of the day, it will have been a delusion and deception. But nevertheless, why do these things happen? Why do people just allow it to be? It's because they're in a judgment. They can't even comprehend or see this very thing talking about, that they would never believe such a thing, because they have free will. They're in rebellion, and we're speaking as if casually that it don't exist, because it doesn't. They would never believe such. You could tell people and they'll still be stuck. It doesn't matter, because instantly they get blinded and the word goes away from them. But so that's why we got to rely on our Creator and Messiah to not get stuck somewhere. And it's like, you get stuck in, it could be anything. And and I see this thing, people get stuck in abusive relationships or families, like I said, there's like a Lion King, and they get stuck, and they seemingly do whatever they want, and they have this odd, weird kind of like fear for some reason, for whoever sort of like, wanting to be God and in control over everyone. It's a severe control. And anytime the severe control is seen, that is not good. That's not from above. Wanting to control people constantly is of the enemy. But with Moses, though, the Father, through Moses, getting the people out of Egypt, so then that's what he needs to be doing with his people in Messiah. And so then, back then, they didn't receive the promises yet. In that, the receiving his Spirit with power. So the entering what was not entered back then, and yet still not entered now, because of the things to come. because receiving his spirit is just like a down payment of the things to come. And there's another Exodus. Well, that's what the Exodus is, not natural Exodus, spiritual Exodus, and then, the real thing finally. Oh, headed out of Egypt, going where? Just to obey the Creator and obey Messiah, teaching us the commandments in our heart. And we can read this in his word. This is what it looks like. We could read, but reading won't do anything without the Father and Messiah teaching us, the only true teacher. I mean, he needs to give us the understanding. Spirit came down like a dove. It's, coming down in spirit. It's like Moses coming down now to the people and teaching them. But his spirit speaking to his people, their spirit. It's like he's right there, but not seeing in that kind of way, but seeing, perceiving, needing to see with the spiritual eyes of the things that will be seen in the future. But entering the kingdom now, and yet still not entered because of the understanding of the things to come. That it's an exodus now, but it's with the heart instead of only natural. An exodus, carnally natural, like the apostle says, first the natural, then the spiritual. And all things were fulfilled in that kind of way, in that they were fulfilled natural. And now the age of the new covenant is there is no carnal Israel. There's only spiritual Israel. There's not two Israels. There's not two Jerusalems. There's only New Jerusalem and not the old, because the old was without the Father's power in them to do the works. And Messiah was the first to have the Father in him doing the works and giving understanding on Scripture. Everyone else, while he was being taught by the Father, does what carnal people do today. They just read and create their own systems and religions and search for what they want to be true instead of asking the Creator and Messiah for whatever is true, and not leaning on our own understanding, or else we'll never have any. We got to obey that. That's for his people to obey, and then he'll give it. And you don't have to do the works as far as reading, creating religion, getting into all these things. It's not that you don't read ever, but if someone says study, it's not by yourself. Nothing can be done by themselves. Only as the Messiah is leading his people in spirit to go through the death of the desert. And that's what I see. It's like death. I've been saying that to myself for a long time. And some of these scriptures come alive. It is a desert. It's what it's supposed to be. The picture is perfect. There's not much life in the desert. And it's the walking dead among a few living in this world. That picture's actually pretty accurate with zombies and stuff, where people are alive, but they're dead though. And this wouldn't have been understood before Messiah, as the natural man cannot receive the things of the Spirit of the Father, like we read. So there's like 3 ages, if you will, that he's given me to see on the grand scale. And then, I would say ages within the ages and ages to come, but the natural, the spiritual, and then the things to come, the fullness of time, like the 3 major ages, the natural exodus, the spiritual, and then finally the real exodus, the fulfillment of, the filling up of what's lacking right now. And lacking only because not receiving everything right now, just, only receiving whatever we can receive from him in part. Things that they didn't understand and receive before Messiah, that the prophets were looking forward to but could not see, that the disciples were now starting to see. Well, that's for us, all his people, starting to see the things they couldn't because it wasn't revealed, it wasn't given yet. So it's not out of pride, it's just out of truth. Um, Anything that's done out of pride is evil. Needs to stop, needs to go away. But who prays for it? Who's asking him what pride is? People already know. And that is the danger, that is the teaching, that those who say they see are made blind. And those that are blind see, and they acknowledge they're blind. This is the judgment, Messiah said. This is the judgment, and he says it in few words, which speaks all kinds of different things, but in a few words. Those who say they see in their heart of themselves, in the heart, are blind, and those who say they don't see in their heart, screaming, heal, heal me, they start to see and healed. Everyone else in Jerusalem can see and they can walk and they're doing just fine. He didn't come to heal them. He came to heal the sick. He came to heal those that are dead spiritually, those who can't walk or see or hear. That's why we read him healing, the understanding of what he's doing in heaven, the spiritual understanding of healing our eyes, healing the walking and hearing. But the Jerusalem, the false prophets could not, they had eyes but could not see. Well, that prophecy in Isaiah is ever present and always true. It was true 500 years ago that they have eyes but cannot see. Everything we read is true. But I've seen this nasty thing. I clicked on something yesterday and couldn't take it more than a few seconds. Right away, preacher man in some building teaching the sheep, the poor sheep, man, getting utterly deceived by them. He quickly throws in dispensation. This is how they do their trickery. It's nasty. Starts talking about dispensation, gets false things in people's heads that they already want to believe, or already believe anyways. And whatever someone wants to believe, that's what they will believe. They got to seek the Creator, or else they'll just believe a delusion, which is what we want to believe of ourselves and not receive from above. But these words, these systems, all nasty to me. There is no such thing. His word is spirit. You compare one spiritual thing to another anywhere, and his word is however he gives to do it. And there is no evil in that. That's how we compare the scriptures, is spiritual with spiritual. And it's all one. His word is all connected. There is the rightly dividing. They use those words in there, but they use it for evil. They use rightly dividing for saying, mocking. Well, otherwise, we would have to cut off our hands, like Messiah said. That's what the guy said, and I was about to puke. Couldn't take anymore. I don't watch these false prophets anymore, eat their food anymore. Just quickly and casually throwing out something incredibly important for all. And actually speaking of it as literally, so there's to throw it down and then connect it with dispensation. And then some would say, I'm against Jesus. No, I'm not against you. Constantly doing this evil, man. They just know how to do it constantly. They hear from their God, all right, the devil, just like Messiah says they hear from and do his works. These religious leaders are of the same spirit as yesterday and of old. Nothing changed, except that it's the spiritual thing now and not natural. But they always hated the prophets. The people always didn't listen. And many rebelled and died in the desert. It's always been the same. Many called, few chosen. Until the end, it will be the same. Then the reality of Messiah, Moses coming down, the reality of that will come. But for his people, that's not what they're looking for, right? That's not the understanding as the only understanding. Um, it's that he's come to his people already in spirit, and now he's got to teach us everything Moses taught, but only the spiritual meaning of how to keep these laws and commandments in the heart. And it's going to be as difficult as it was for them because, you know, there was a change. There was a spiritual judgment that happened, that started and began. And that's why everybody that didn't believe, that doesn't believe, is instantly condemned already. No one has to be condemned by us. Messiah didn't condemn anyone. The spiritual judgment already saying, repent, commanding everyone everywhere to repent. And those that don't believe, condemned already. It's a spiritual destruction, uprooted, twice dead. So this reality finally came of this spiritual uprooting and death, where now there's life available. And those that don't believe are in death. There was no reality to this before Messiah. It was just the natural. If you just staying alive and getting blessed naturally, But all those scriptures have an understanding for us, though, that needs to be given. That's how every word is true. Every word applies. And these people with dispensation say it's for you to read, but not everything applies for us. That's what they do with that. And then they quickly throw in cutting off your hand and mock it. Say, otherwise we would have to cut off our hand. Right. What am I seeing in the heart? What is going on in the heart? The actual thing. Who cares what someone says by itself? Otherwise, we would have to cut off sin and obey. That's what the man's really saying, that the sheep cannot perceive. Yes, he is. And the devil's teaching him to do it. They all do this. They have a secret meaning inside that does not mean what they say on the outside, ever. Every doctrine is a lie in the heart. Everything they do is a lie. It's just a matter of the Father showing you how it works and where the lie is and where it lies. Because someone that just casually mocks that, oh, cut off your hand, what, that was for the Jews back then? They never even explained themselves. Otherwise, we would have to cut off our hand. Wait, so that is he saying people used to do that back then? Very stupid and blind. People need to rely on the Father, else we'll be utterly stupid. He'll make us stupid when we don't listen. But those that don't know him, that's what they've become. And the Gentiles, the nations, he made the wisdom of this world foolishness to himself. He made it that way. For those that don't know him, they're already foolish because of truth, because it's a reality. And so were we. And we wouldn't see these tricks, these devils play, and people think it harsh. Now there needs to be a divider. There needs to be a line right between the two. Someone's either a devil or they're a saint. That's it. But they want this mixing and mushy Mickey Mouse kingdom garbage, always lukewarm, mixing things. Mixing, 50-50 monsters and mutations spiritually. But so it is. That's the way it is. People, whatever is true, that's what the people will hate in this world. It's setting apart light and dark. There is no such thing as someone that's like half of the enemy and half of the creator. It doesn't exist because the creator doesn't allow it to exist. His word teaches it. And so we need to. That is the path, cutting off the thing that causes offense and sin. Cutting off a little here and a little there. The Father is doing the works. And when it's cut off, we obey him more in the heart. And they just casually dump this as some kind of, just mocking it. And then it's as when they speak, it's like as if that people were doing that or something. This is the kind of confusion you could find all day long in there. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. There's confusion is sent to them, but the people can't see it. They're sitting there and it makes sense to them, or whatever they're thinking. It's not on their mind. that, they're not perceiving anything that his people are perceiving. They see those letters and it does not mean anything what it's really supposed to mean. Not seeing at all. This is the delusion we're coming out of. They're, then they do this with the apostle too. Dispensation, separation, dividing, two gospels. The Jews, the church age, they do this nasty work. There is no such thing. Messiah was of the Father, and he kept the laws and commandments in the heart, filled up the law by the Father's works, like he said, not his own works. He's the perfect example of all those that would follow after him, all of his people. There's no division. There is no Jew or Greek or male or female or black or white, or like we read so plainly that they seem to forget real quickly. How come they do that? How come they forget? They only pick and choose letters of the apostle whenever they feel like it and skip the rest because it contradicts what they're saying. They do this all day long. When someone does this, it's not a good sign. Not knowing is the proper thing, and then we just don't speak of what we don't know. That's how the Father does the work and protects us. Well, but they just speak openly about whatever their understanding is, which is no understanding at all. Because the Father says, lean not on your own understanding. Therefore, if someone does that with their heart, they will have none, because he doesn't bless it. He won't allow it to go through another way than to give through Messiah. It will not be given to them. But they don't want to hear when they hear the words. They don't want to listen. They don't, it's the same resistance that we can read of how they bitterly resisted. What is it, Moses? And we could read the problems, the complaints. It's going to be difficult to keep these commandments and laws in the heart because of the spiritual reality and understanding he's giving us, because it affects our life. There's a reality to it. The setting apart is real, and it's going to make you lose everyone over time. Yes, it will. It's not a joke following his way, the narrow way. It's not a joke. And the Father puts it in you that you don't want to do, those old things that you used to, and be blind and delusional like that. And so then people will take offense, severe offense, to seeing separation. How come it's, this is what he's given me to see that there's only two things in this world, and that's the reality we live in. And we're not basing it off of the world's perspective and truth, so-called, but only whatever is true from above. And there's only two people. There's only saints and there's devils. That's it. It doesn't matter how someone smiles. What's their heart doing? They can't trick the Father. Is it murdering? Is it stealing? Is it lying? Is it robbing? Is it not being set apart? What is it doing? And that's all that matters. The two things. So someone is either an enemy or they're, of the Father, of the same body, a true friend, a true brother, sister. Who's the brother, sister, mother, fathers? Those who do the will of the Creator. Those who want to do and do the will of the Creator, like Messiah said plainly. That's the real thing. Someone could be a literal brother, but because of the spiritual problems, all things spiritual, someone could be a physical brother, mother, father, and they're not the actual thing. They're not really a brother, mother, father, sister, one in the spirit like that. It's supposed to be, good like that, but yet it's not, because that's not how the Father purposed it to be right now, although it will be. But that would be the perfect thing, which doesn't exist in this world. It only exists in his people. doesn't exist in this world, the God of this world. And it's so simple when he gives us the thing, it can't be turned back. They don't realize how many scriptures are there. They don't realize over and over that those who hate his commandments and laws, he doesn't even listen to their prayer. It's an abomination. Whoever turns his ear from the law, away from the law, even their prayer is an abomination. Who's taking that seriously? No big deal, though. Invite some guests, go to church next Sunday, and pray. Yeah, it's an abomination. That's the reality. That's the reality. It's an abomination to the Creator. It's not being heard. There's no answers to those that continue like this. He doesn't bless rebellion. So what do people do? Well, they look at the natural things they have and try to use that as proof for being blessed. This is not carnal Israel. That never was the main thing or teaching. Only a type of the real thing. That's only the carnal things are those that are carnal, set on the things of the earth below and not above, spiritual. So then we'll find people in this world saying, I'm blessed, I'm blessed. When they say that, their only perception, their only sight when they see that is literally material things and money and things like that. That's blessed. It doesn't matter that they might try to say some words to make it sound like it's more if they get cornered or something. That's their only understanding. Because someone who hasn't been given anything from above yet doesn't know what it is or perceive it at all. And that's an abomination to the carnal man because there's nothing he doesn't know. It cannot be that someone's that blind and cannot receive unless they obey and do the Father's will. That is the rebellion. It cannot believe that. It will not believe that. It will resist utterly unless the Father has mercy on them too. In this age, he has mercy on whom he has mercy and compassion on whom he has compassion, like we read, never changing, still true to this day, which is rightly dividing from having mercy on all in the ages to come. But in this age, the way they rightly divide is abomination. They rightly divide so that for the exact opposite, teaching the spiritually backwards thing is how they rightly divide. Teaching spiritually in the heart, that the laws and commandments to be kept in the heart, is teaching the exact opposite in the heart to the people, that nothing to do with them, no big deal. Even though they can read over and over his judgments, his commandments. But how many times does Scripture teach about his judgments, to learn his judgments? Over and over again, even when the word's not used. The Father gives you to see something, and you see judgments that are being taught, even if it's not said. That's how he teaches us. He gives us things to see that won't be said just like that when we're reading the very verse, because we're explaining with words what it means, and not just the letters reading. And they just read letters, which kill all day long. It spiritually kills. It doesn't give life. The Spirit gives life. There is no way to use his word. It's vain and worthless without his Spirit, because only his Spirit gives life. That's it. And so he's come, and yet he hasn't come yet. He's come in that his people receiving his Spirit. He's come down to us, and yet he's not come yet because it's not the fullness of times yet. The real Exodus isn't, this world is utterly lost. This is not the true real thing yet, although all things in part spiritually, even a type of the things that come for us now. And the thing that Israel was doing is a type of what we have been given now already. And it's like the three major ages. Um, First, Abraham gives to Melchizedek. We're supposed to be taught by the Father what this means, so we start seeing the reality of this. Messiah in heaven, you give to him, which is to give to the Father ultimately. Give to the Father what's his, and give to Caesar what's his. And they didn't like that answer, did they? They never do. Man, the eyes of man are never satisfied. You're screwed if you do, screwed if you don't with carnal people. They'll hate you if you do them evil. They'll hate you if you do them good. Yes, they do. If someone does evil, well, vengeance, because they've never seen anything other than vengeance and a murderous heart ever in their life yet, those who don't know him. And if you do good works, they've never seen that before. So they have to condemn it as evil because it's exposing them. So murder again, good or evil. They accept nothing, and yet they demand everything. Sounds like a child to me more and more. Yes, it is a child. The carnal man is a child, demanding everything, knowing nothing, receiving nothing. Contradictions, stories, made up things. Just making things up like a kid, that spiritually. And the kid just makes things up, and he's just a kid, just making things up in imagination. So then that's what those that don't know him, they just make things up because they're not asking, they're not receiving from the Father. That's the last thing they want to do. All along, somehow not seeing it, as nobody did. They've been seeking what they want and then just throwing the word God in there because that's what they need to do for religion. If they didn't, then they would be exposed as not being Christians, It's the only reason someone uses the words. So it's scary because those that don't have the Father, they don't have him. So when they pray to God, who are they praying to? It's pretty scary. Someone would say, there's no way it's that bad. No way I'm God. It can't be deceived that badly. Dealing with the creator of the heavens and earth and little children on the earth, we can't touch him. Yes, it is that bad. Yes, everyone's been had that badly. Everyone. Without partiality. Now, it's Adam being sold under sin, and he listens to the devil through the woman. There's something about the woman that's a little different there, and I've seen the works to prove it all day long. It's like she hears more clearly. She wants to destroy man. Destruction's in her ways. But when we see someone going to the park and smiling, they don't see the spiritual war, do they? They don't see how this is happening, do they? No, they don't. They don't see how someone's being destroyed and controlled, because the devil has only come to kill, steal, and destroy. How could someone do good if that's who their father is? So all things done in a delusion and a deceptive heart. And the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. A little bit of handing over to the enemy, and what then? No one can overcome sin because their heart is deceitful above all things. They'll buy whatever it is they're going to buy, thinking that what they bought is better than the next person. But inside, they don't actually know, and they know that somewhere inside. It's how the Father made it to be, but that's the thing they're hiding. A carnal person knows he doesn't know. If he digs, if it's told, it strikes somewhere in there as true, but instantly there's wrath and anger and distress, and it's blinded, and it will reject that. It doesn't know, but it's true. There's always a constant doubt at all times, because without the Father in us, the natural man has nothing. The only thing he sees is natural, and the only things he can rely on is natural. All the explanations are natural. There is no miracles in the natural man at all. So it's only a nasty deception when they act like they sort of believe that. But when it comes down to proof and works, I've never seen the proof that they believe that. Only hatred towards the Father's power and him getting us out of this world and giving us understanding. I've only seen mockery when there's actual belief, when the Spirit is revealing and they're being exposed. That there's something to this because the Father in us is exposing someone that doesn't have him, and it's sensing something. And when it sees actual belief, it mocks that a creator even exists. Yes, religion has done that, but Father blinds them so bad that I've seen it in the open. But if you were to say what they just did, they would reject it and deny it. You know, that's what they've done all their life. I just make my problems go away, and they do. And because I say so, it is. That's what the carnal man does. So he's willing to lie at all times, you know. It's real bad. And so then really the carnal man's blessing is his people's curse, because that's what they're seeking. They're seeking the things of this world, like Messiah says. The Gentiles all do this. They seek these things. For you seek the kingdom, and you'll have what you need. Do they believe in the power of that promise? No, they don't. No, they don't. But who's going to listen? Who's going to hear, though? All of them would find a way to make that look evil somehow, and everyone in there would agree with it and say, how dare you talk about my pastor like that? You know, they don't know him. How dare Messiah call them devil, snakes, and hypocrites? Right. They don't know what's going on. That's what's going on. The severe blinding of the many called. So it's already true. Messiah comes and someone is ashamed of him, and they're already being cut up by his sword spiritually. It's already over. It's already came as a thief in the night, because that's what the reality will be. That's what the reality will be at the end for those that don't overcome. It's already, that's the important thing to see. It's already taken right now. Judgment's already always been true. You know? Though we read that in Revelation, it's not as if it's going to come someday, as if it's not already true. That's how you would write it, for our admonition to start seeing these things become true and alive in us. It always was true already since Messiah forward, that he's been doing this. But we start seeing it. You know, if they don't repent, I come with the sword and take their light, snuff it out. It's already out. There's no light in there. It's already dark. You know, we start seeing that that's what he did already. But for those that have an eye to hear and eyes to see and ears to hear, it's for them to see and see that and go, wow, you know, Father getting them through it, so that they repent. Because all those that have the lampstand taken, you know, they're not repenting in the heart. And the scary thing is if someone believed for a moment and then they died, they won't believe ever again in this life. The seed sprouted and now it dies. There is no seed now. They, you know, for a while I didn't understand what I needed to with those scriptures, with Hebrew, with their sin unto death. Start understanding these things, and it scares its people, you know, because of the absolute reality of it. You start seeing his power and judgments you can't come out of once that happens. Yes, the very thing that the world teaches, the Father is proving the exact and perfect opposite to his people, and will prove it to all. Not just his people, will prove it to all someday. That you don't know you're in deception or in delusion. That's what a delusion and deception is, you know. That's the scary thing. The problem with the spirit is so messed up. Someone that's deceived in there and got sucked in by a false prophet, you'd tell them these things, to pray for all these things, seek the Creator, you know, and about deception and delusion and what lies are and what truth is. They have to see and believe that they are deceived first in order to do that. They won't do it. It's a miracle if someone does. It's like the Father saying, "Come, get out of there." That's for His people to come out of her. But they won't. The rest won't do it because they don't believe that's true about themselves, and so they get hardened even more. They don't know what that is, hardening. Pharaoh and the Egyptians, that's for everyone. Jacob wrestling with the angel, that's for everyone. Moses coming down the mountain, that's for everyone. Learning his judgments, keeping his commandments, that's for everyone. Everything is for everyone. His word, every word is true, and they have simple words from Messiah that they claim to believe in that prove this thing very simply and quickly with words. Because that's the only thing that carnal man sees is letters. But there's always simple scripture for them to prove they don't believe it, but they believe a lie. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Father, which is all His scripture, all His word through the prophets, the law, and the writing. Every word that proceeds out of the Father's mouth is for us to start living and understanding. And then they just casually say, cutting off your hand is not for you, otherwise we'd have to literally cut our hand off. What is that? It's monstrous. It's a beast. Nasty. Every word that comes from Messiah's mouth is for His disciples, His people, to learn and do. And every word that's in the Father's word is for His people to learn. Yes, Adam and Eve is for us. There's a spiritual understanding to be understood and lived. She does evil works, and Adam eats the evil works also, teaching that mankind can only do evil works continually in Genesis for those that are perceiving and seeing that, the Father has given me that to see plainly. And then there's scriptures that will only line up with that all day long in His word. When something's true, all the rest of His word will teach and line up with it and not contradict it. That they weren't able to do good works. That's what a weak carnal person is, sold under sin, only listening to the devil. And the deceitfulness of their heart, the false prophets speak and teach the deceitfulness of their heart. We read that over and over. The harlot does this. Only compel them to come in. That's all His people can do. Is give a little word and a little truth. And it's up to the Father ultimately. They can pray and ask about it, but that someone would believe and receive His Spirit, because someone who doesn't know Him, they can't see Him, believe it. And the contrast is simple for those that know Him, because for those that know Him, they believed one day and they could see it. They could see that they didn't believe. They see the contrast of darkness. They could see they were destroyed without hope or faith or belief. But those that are stuck in the church world, and if they did believe and now they've been dead for a long time, they don't see any of these things. And they don't want to be reminded, if that is what happened. They don't want to be reminded of that. It's gotten very hard and hardened over time, and it gets worse and worse. It separates further and further into the darkness, or closer and closer to Him in light and in truth. So there's scriptures we could read about prophecy, and when we read it, that's like the fullness of the prophecy. It's to perceive that it's already true in part for those that can see whatever prophecy they've been given to understand, and see that there's things to come, and that's the fullness of the prophecy. So Messiah already, over and over, since the new covenant, since he died and was resurrected, comes down and sees rebellion just like Moses. That's for everyone what happens with Moses and the Israelites to learn. It's for everyone because it's true for every person, every generation. It's true. We'll see the judgment, start seeing what this world is, start seeing the power and the signs that he gives for you, for his people to see for themselves. They'll see his power and signs and judgments like the Israelites did because they saw it. So also his people will see it because that's a teaching. They saw it, we see it. It's just we're talking about a little different two things here. Seeing naturally, seeing spiritually, the signs and power and judgment. But the teaching is that his people see it. He'll show them his power. He'll show them the protection from enemies, and that he will, he could judge however he pleases to get you through something, an enemy, or have them agree with you so you can pass by. See these teachings and then they fume up in rage after they did what they didn't want to do, someone like Pharaoh, and they can't believe he let the people go. It's because the Father is in utter control. Pharaoh can't do anything else. That's why the fear should come in someone. Well, what do we read? He puts his fear in his people. It's not even our own. He puts his faith in his people. It's not even our own, just like the apostle says, that they do not believe. They believe you can click a button and choose religion and faith is installed instantly. No, that's not waking up from the dead. That's not receiving his mercy. Choosing a golden calf has nothing to do. It's an abomination. And so then all the other nations build their own gods. We're in a different age than before because of the spiritual judgment that began with the house of the Creator, his people, that these things, spiritual understandings and realities in his word, started becoming a reality. And so now it's like when the Father rebukes someone, it's right to their face because it's his spirit going right, but they can't see that. He's like right there, it's as if he's there, rebukes them to their face, like we read. Like the father slapping the kid, saying, rebuked. What's the kid going to do now? Step on the father? I don't think so. What's Pharaoh going to do? What's the Egyptians going to do? They watch their enemies get flooded. It's not a pretty sight to see, but we'll see it. Seen it already. We'll watch everything start coming true that, he teaches us bit by bit, where the enemy's so dark that he wants to see you in destruction and maybe thinks he got you. And then later they find out you're not. And fear grips them, a cowardly fear, because they're angry that you're not destroyed, spiritually speaking. They want that. And when someone's carnal, they all do the same things. That's the scary part. It doesn't matter if they wear nice clothes and put head covering on. If they're carnal, they want Messiah's people destroyed, and fear comes over them when they thought they destroyed and didn't, because a snake bites always with the intention to poison and kill. Yes, it does. And so they bite, but his people are protected from the venom. This is real. They constantly attack spiritually, constantly trying to suck you in a delusion and kill you. This world's doing that constantly. So they bite with the intention of poisoning. And when they don't see what they think they should see, they're like, they're in shock. That's what we read in Revelation, because Revelation is for all those in Messiah that need to overcome and run the race, for all of them equally. they wake up, you know, and the enemy sees, and it's in disbelief that they're not dead. Even though the enemies don't understand the way that this needs to be understood, they know something about biting and wanting it to be destroyed. It's true, but it's in a delusion. It's blind. It doesn't know what, but it knows something about this. It's trying to do this anyways. That's what the devil's trying to do, destroy his people. And so that's why, you know, the venom, it didn't bother the apostle, and he shakes the snake in the fire like it's nothing. Off to destruction it goes. What happens to a snake when they try to bite his people? Severe judgment's coming. Not in the future only. Now, however he sees fit, severe judgment's coming for trying to destroy, which is utter murder of good of the Father's people. That snake's going to go right in the fire and be destroyed, you know. And so what happens when some people there, some pagans, whoa, he didn't, it's like not bothering him. What does it say in Acts? He's God. Yeah, it says God. They think he's God. Now it's right away that people believe it. Some of these scriptures just start popping out. Now this is what the world is. We read openly what's in their heart there. So the apostle is God because he didn't die. See, right away a false pagan belief quick to worship man. That is the temptation. And it is real. And people are worshiping people. It's real. It's very real. They're very attached to people and their stars and their gods. Star of your gods. The devil's stars of darkness, and not the stars from heaven above, the lights. The sun, the moon, the stars, the Father, the Messiah, and all the little shepherds and kings, his people, lights. It's no accident. Heavens are screaming it out. The creation's screaming out all his truth everywhere. And we're given, you know, a picture of, for our admonition of what Messiah does with his disciples, you know, teaches them and guides them and leads them like that in spirit now. But it looks something like what we read there when he was there with them. Not just for them, because of the power of receiving the Spirit that would be for all after him. This is how he's doing it. It would look like that, like we read. It would look like him doing that, gently rebuking, you know, correcting, knowing that they don't understand, but they think they do and say they do and they don't, and Messiah knows they don't. They know that he knows they're lying out of pride, you know, because that's all a carnal man ever does. They didn't receive the Spirit yet. They were being led up to it. You never know when someone's being led up to believe. It's going to look something like that, I believe, for everyone. Like they, something about their life being led up to, and then, you know, the Spirit comes. And now, you know, it's time to get out of this world, time to get out of this God of this world system with our mind and heart. You can't escape it literally, and that's the teaching. You know, we even read specifically about that. If we have to do like this or that with the enemies, then they would have to be removed from the world. If you can't talk to anybody at all, you would have to be removed from the world. But no, that's not the plan. That's not the calling. It's to be in the world and not of it. That's the tribulation, because everything is backwards. You know what they need to be until the Father starts showing them, and then wherever they are right now, they're still not where they need to be. I got some random call I don't know of. People are interested in games and playing games, spiritual, childish games, which is always evil. Devils are children playing evil constantly, playing games of who's the best, who's the greatest God. No one wants to hear. It's not for people who don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. His word is not for them right now. That's the truth. It's not what the church world teaches, is it? It's for all equally, and then they condemn those who don't join their religion, not even seeing how divided their religion is, that not seeing that the body is one, and there is no such division in the body. There is no such division in the actual body in heaven above his people. They're one. There is no such division. These are kingdoms and divisions and religions of the earth, which are all divided and pitted against each other. And it's tricky, but it gets less and less tricky the more and more the Father gives discernment to see what we didn't literally see before. It's not tricky anymore when someone goes around screaming Jesus or burn in hell, or believe in Jesus. They don't know what they're doing. The false prophets sent out to steal, kill, and destroy. It doesn't matter that they don't see that the way they need to. It's happening anyways. They're messengers of the devil, sent out to kill, steal, and destroy. That's all anyone can do. That's a devil with their teaching and their doctrine, with their spells and the power of Satan through them plagues and deceptions they do. They kill people. They lead them into captivity. They keep them in captivity, and there's destruction in there. There's no life in there. There's no actual belief or hope at all. And when someone doesn't have the Father's rest, they have to do things constantly in and of this world and stay busy like that. And people do it with religion, stay busy with religion. And they just, time to go to church, and everybody's sitting there and they're all dead. There's no life in there. The judgment's always been true, but there's a judgment coming still. Yes, there's the fullness of this judgment coming where everyone gives an account and they will be separated, the tares and the wheat. It's always been true, first naturally, and then the new covenant age spiritually being set apart. And then there's the real deal. There's the real thing where they knock and they're sorry, too bad. That's what Messiah will say. You were ashamed of me. I was ashamed of you all your life. You didn't enter the kingdom. Pay the penalty now and off to prison. That's what you wanted. It's what you got people into. And now you're going to get what you did and what you wanted so badly. Let's see if you like it. And that'll be the great judgment. Those that don't know him are not entering the kingdom now in spirit. Receiving his spirit is the kingdom, entering now. But then in the kingdom to come, the fullness of times, they won't be of it. And in the kingdom, they'll be cast out, the hypocrites. It's real. In a parable, one thing represents something, but it never works like this, where one thing represents something else that represents something else that's not real, and people are doing these tricks all day long. At the end of the age, like we read, will be the separation of the sheep and goats that ever live. That's why they need to run the race right now, because there's a resurrection at the end of the age. And then there's a separation, and there's punishment, and then there's reward for his people. And they'll reign with the king and bring peace on earth, goodwill towards all. And the others will not be. They're going to be in correctly written with words, age-lasting destruction from the presence of the Father. Age-lasting shame and contempt instead of everlasting, literal everlasting. Tortured somewhere in a fire pit for all eternity. Age-lasting shame and contempt, and age-abiding or age-lasting destruction from the presence of the Father. It's going to be a destruction. It's going to be a weeping and gnashing of teeth. Don't let anyone take away of the things to come. Those who do are liars. There's a purpose and plan for everything. Those that are overcoming, it doesn't matter what generation it is, they need to overcome and run the race so that at the end, they're in the kingdom and receive life instead of being judged with the world and destruction, put to shame. They'll learn their lesson in the age-lasting judgment. Right in Genesis, it's for us. Just under 1,000 years, they have to die to who and what they are. It has to happen to everyone. If not now, in the judgment to come, they will die like Adam, dying to himself, some way, somehow. Within a day, you shall surely die. See, dying to who and what we are. Those that having died to the beast, to the roaring lion within, the age lasting or one day punishment and judgment, the kingdom reign, the 1,000 years, they're going to dying to themselves, dying you shall die. See, the Father will say, the devil was a liar that said you shall not surely die, and the wicked are tricked just because it's a little delayed, that dying to who and what they are. But nevertheless, even now they're in destruction. They don't have life, because he who saves his soul shall be destroying it. It's true now, and it will be true. They will be destroying who and what they are. That needs to happen. But he who is destroying his soul, this is actually a good thing, but this is the judgment. This is the test and the race and the destruction of who and what we are. All need to be destroyed. But whoever's destroying themselves now shall be finding life right now, and they're going to go into life. But those that don't die to who and what they are in destruction already now, and the wrath is stored up for their final destruction in the age-lasting contempt, the day of punishment, where within one day all creation will die to who and what they are. And that's why we read after the 1,000 years, not until after the 1,000 years, the rest of the dead are made alive. Not until after the 1,000 years, the rest of the dead are made alive. As there is something to this, because they will have died to who and what they are. It's a big deal. I hope whoever, all those in Messiah, wherever they are, they need to fear the Creator right now, because they will later. If not, they need to go through the dying right now so that they don't face the second death of specifically understanding the spiritual thing, dying to who and what we are, which is a destruction of self. And it's painful, but even though they die, we can live, like Messiah says. Even though we die, we live while dying to the old man now, which is the race, to live, finding life nevertheless, or not dying to the old man, but the beast is alive. The beast is alive, not dying to the old man now. So then, not dying to the old man, being destroyed now, no life, no understanding, Father not with us, no comforter, no life, no eternal life within someone that's not dying. So everyone needs to die, and the Creator has made it pretty evident. All creation is dying and dies. Everyone's going to die to themselves, no partiality. All of a sudden, judgment becomes real in the eyes of the harlot. For a split second, they actually imagine themselves in judgment, and then they go, ooh, wicked, ooh, murder him, because they imagine judgment for just a second being real to them. They don't believe in judgment. No one who doesn't have the Father believes in his judgments for real in their own heart for themselves, nor do they understand them, his judgments at all. They don't believe in them. They're not learning and growing what these are and how he works. carnal man hates the Father and hates everything that's true and hates judgments. They do not believe in his judgments right now, nor to come for them. They're atheists in the heart, to be truth. That is the truth. But the cover they play with religion, their clothes that they put on, just stripped away and they're naked. There's nothing left. Just shame and contempt. Everyone needs to be covered by the Father, and those that die in their sins have to pay for them in the judgment and die to who and what they are. Yes, in the judgment. Adam and Eve for us. That's what woman does. All women without the Father in them do what Eve does, makes the man do evil works, then hands over instruction from the devil on how to do it. They only do evil continually, like we read in Genesis. The intent of the thoughts of the heart, spirit, heart always spiritual things. The intent of the thoughts of the heart is only evil continually, only evil continually, because that's what Adam and Eve did. Only evil continually. But they're the example of being covered and forgiven afterwards. So there's a few that are being covered and forgiven, and now they gotta learn the commandments and do what's right and start keeping his way and live it and be set apart from this world and not love the world or money or things in it. It's just a plastic cover people are talking about. There's no reality in religion. They don't want to obey the Creator. That's the last thing they would ever do, the carnal man. And neither would I. That is receiving the Spirit, all of a sudden seeing that he's real and exists. Can't be faked, can't be pretended, can't fake real. Would have never had anything to do with him if he hadn't shown mercy. Nothing. Would have went lost dead sheep, and die without him, and then face the judgment and have to die to self. Whoever has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the ecclesias, to the gatherings. There's only one gathering. There's only one body, if I must. The perverted word church, because church is a system. When someone says church, it's religion that they created. But gathering or ecclesia, isn't speaking of church, what man's definition of this is. Instantly, that's the only thing someone conceives and thinks about is church, system, and religion. It has nothing to do with the Creator at all. One gathering, one heavenly body that we join and don't create our own. Doing the Father's will, whatever he tells us to do. Listening to Messiah like the people to Moses. But we learn that most don't listen to Moses. And then the kingdom comes and the kingdom is built. So in part, things about the kingdom right now are true that we read, and yet there's things to come about it that's still not fulfilled. What goes on in the kingdom. We can learn about these things with the Father giving everything we need and not getting it from ourselves. What happens if you do evil works with intention? To murder, kill, and destroy with intention. You're stoned. You're dead in the kingdom. But the dead won't know that or believe that. It's for his people to know. If you spot someone doing evil works on purpose to kill, steal, and destroy you, they're dead, because someone that does that is stoned to death in the kingdom. They're spiritually stoned to death in a spiritual destruction. They're an age-lasting destruction from the presence of the Creator right now. They don't have him because his people can't do that. Someone doing their own works, which is man doing his own works apart from the Father, is dead. Whoever carries sticks and does their own works on the Sabbath is dead, stoned to death. Some carnal person out there, they talk about the stick still. They don't know what it means. It's not for those that are dead. They will never know what that means now. They don't hear from him. They don't believe. They're not going to even believe they're dead. You know, what death? Someone that's dead doesn't know anything else. They've never seen life yet. They have no contrast, nothing to see or compare. They're just continually dead. That's all they know. And so then someone that's doing their own works and not the Father's works, the carnal do all their own works still. They're dead. And we'll see the works, the evil works they do that prove they're dead. They'll try to steal, kill, and destroy his people, proving they're dead. Only dead men can do that. His people can't be on a mission to steal, kill, and destroy. That's for the devil's messengers. The lake of fire is awaiting. It's already here and it's awaiting. Both are true. Fire is already, in part, a destruction for those that are, the crows, the foul spirits are pecking the flesh and destroying them anyways. But they hold on to who and what they are, so they get destroyed more and more. And it's not for the purpose of cutting off sin. It's just a destruction and death. That's it. Hold on to the soul. Well, you lose it. You destroy it. You shall be destroying it. It's not there. We don't condemn or point fingers. I'm just saying this is the truth. This is what he's given me to see clearly. There is no condemnation in Messiah's people to condemn people because they're given understanding and a heart. And yet it's the severity of the Creator and his judgments they learn and know. And it's a big deal. It's important. Teach the truth anyways, even though it will offend everyone, even though we don't condemn. We're not supposed to be condemning anyone, because all who don't believe are condemned already by the Father. They're already condemned. No one condemns someone in reality, only in a delusion. So when someone condemns someone in their heart, like religion does all day long in their heart, all of them, that's wickedness. That's in a delusion. It's deceived. There is no condemning people in reality. Someone has to be utterly blind to condemn people continually. For those that will hear and receive the good news, the message, for those that will believe. Those that don't, they don't. You're set apart from them and they're already condemned. And that word doesn't mean that there's no hope for them. That's a monstrous religious concept that they created, wicked. That condemnation means no hope for all eternity, torture for all eternity. I can't imagine what it would be like, what it will be like. That all the harlot that ever lived, condemning people to the fiery pit for all eternity by their golden calf to be tortured by their own doctrine, themselves they worship, that they themselves go into Gehenna fire in prison. Can't imagine the shame and foaming up and contempt and wrath and distress and anguish for everyone who does evil, already starting now, because the wrath of the devil is in people. And it only takes one little good work for a devil to see before wrath comes in them. They go crazy trying to kill, steal, and destroy. Nobody apart from the Father can do good works. Nobody's ever done good works apart from the Father. It never happened. Never will, apart from him. And then they're left with the devil as their father. Only wrath and killing, stealing, and destroying with a murderous heart continually. Prideful and selfish, thinking about self at all times, every second. When it goes out, it's thinking about how it looks and about self constantly, protecting the image of the beast, its father, the devil. Because a beast is selfish. Lions and dogs are selfish. It's a beast. The only reason it does whatever it does is so that it gets things for itself. It doesn't have a heart or care. It only looks like it cares as long as you're doing something for it. That's what a beast is. It's the way it is. That's what a human being is without the Father, a beast. It only look like they're friends with someone because they're just using them because they're getting something that they like out of it for themselves. As long as that starts going away, which it will for those in Messiah, they don't play this wicked game anymore, and that starts going away. They don't have that spirit of needing to be needed and doing what they do. Therefore, they will murder you because now you murdered them because it's always about self, self, self. You're screwing me. That's what the carnal man says constantly. You messed with me. I'm God. Do you know my name? Oh, it's sick. From head to toe, it's sick. That's why the Father, we read that. The harlot, Christianity, from head to toe, it's to the balls of the feet, it's sick. Spiritually destroyed and corrupted. His people don't make things up for themselves. That's what the church world does. His word speaks all these things constantly. But when they hear these words, they get fuming angry as if we can't say that. Simply state what's in Scripture over and over again. They get offended all along. They don't use the book. They only, they don't, it only looks like using his word to look like something in a believer, but it only uses it as a cover. It doesn't care or understand anything in it that the Father must give, or else we won't have it. And the Father does good. When we do good, he blesses his people. He's not a control monster, freak like the devil, like devils in this world. That is what evil is. But the carnal man will see the Father as what we see the devil as. See, that's what it will always be like. This enmity and war will always be like that until the end. Whatever we know is true about the carnal man, they will point the finger and accuse Messiah's people of being exactly that. They don't know. They have to do that to protect themselves. They don't actually know. They only do that with false intentions to protect their own selves and their doctrine from being exposed. To the carnal man, humble is pride. To the carnal man, truth is a lie. To the carnal man, obedience is abomination. To the carnal man, no free will is abomination. You know, it's all backwards, everything. And to his people, the reverse, and with knowledge, with knowing, with clarity. Stubborn, rebellious child that's going to get sent to the Gehenna fire and whipped and corrected. But only for a few right now in this age of evil. Messiah has come already to his people. It's not just for words to say, for doctrine. Someone who doesn't have him doesn't know him, doesn't mean anything to them. It's not real. And you never know who creeps in unnoticed, like I had happen. Extraordinarily deceptive, thinking, you know, it was great, amazing, miracle. And it was a miracle. It was just for the darkness instead of what ended up being good. It was a miracle through darkness, you know, seeing something. It was a miracle. The odds of it all happening was there was no odds, you know, it was like a miracle. Have to experience something nasty, cause more fear. Very tricky until he shows his disciples who Judas is, and it's sad. Judas's end, like all is destruction, but it's a little bit more severe with Judas because of the sin being greater, connected to betraying Messiah for the sake of trying to creep in unnoticed and destroy them all for money, for silver, for carnal gain, for fame, which might not have money so much right away, but the goal is always that, if someone gets more fame, then money will come later. But there's a lot of people out there that want that badly, and they don't receive like, some big shot does. They can't change whatever they've been given. How come they can't free will their way into being a Hollywood star or being a big time pastor, popular and famous, making lots of dough, the whole world knowing his name, or so many of it. But they want it just as bad down there. Just because someone's way on the bottom in this world doesn't mean they don't want that. They'll try, you know. But if they're not given, then they won't have. And someone at the bottom working in a low-paying job, the people that have more carnally will point the finger and blame them and condemn them, not understanding anything, that all things are given, not understanding that they can't just snap their fingers and create whatever they want it to be, but Father tricks them by giving just enough of what they want to make them believe a lie that they're God and can get whatever they want. It's pretty scary when the end of that is destruction. That wasn't real after all, was it, if it's a destruction? Someone sent to Gehenna fire, the lake of fire, what the carnal man thought was never real, was it? Fiery words, that's what his word is. It's a sword. The Father is a consuming fire, and his word is like a sharper than two-edged sword. He burns and cuts and slashes. And when false prophets, they do the exact opposite. They heal the deadly wound of the beast with smooth, soothing words and lies. But only fire comes out of the mouth of his people, like we read in Revelation, and it consumes and burns them up. What do they think that means? If anything else is coming out of their mouth, it's abomination, it's a lie, it's a false prophet. All his truth is fire and cuts right to the heart of all people, because his word exposes them. His truth exposes them with power, and the Spirit is doing this. Are they waiting for a couple people to come and burn people with their mouth and fire comes out of their mouth in Revelation there? Are they waiting for that to happen before it's true? So it is when those that are not given any truth, then they sell it. They make money selling the meaning for lies, and they enjoy doing wickedness, like they can read about themselves over and over again in Scripture, that they enjoy it. They have no conscience. To do evil with the heart, no conscience, seared with a hot iron. It's okay to do it all day long, that's all it does. But yes, there is a penalty to pay. There's judgment and there's destruction. But concerning the evil, no conscience. It doesn't bother them. To commit all these sins in the heart, break his laws and commandments in the heart. No big deal. Yeah, that's bad. It's no good. So then it's the opposite for the evil. They don't sleep until they do wicked, until they do evil. The wicked don't sleep at night until they do evil. That's why they'll say, "Oh, I won't have a problem sleeping at night." They say that out of insecurity and pride, making it sound like they're tough. That's one of the reasons why people do that. And then to add more to it, it's because it's true. They need to do evil to sleep at night. Of course, they don't have a problem doing evil to sleep. You bet they'll sleep at night. doing plenty of evil. Won't lose any sleep over it because they're wicked. Church world loves this world, and the beast is coming after it. It's already always destroyed it spiritually, but it's coming after it at the end to burn her with fire and eat her flesh for the destruction of the flesh. There's a there's a destruction and judgment at the end, but the spiritual understanding always true. She's already been destroyed for 1900 something years. She's already not had a light all that time because Messiah snuffs it out in the present moment. It doesn't repent, and the light is taken from them. It's always been true, but there's a judgment at the end. And I believe we're seeing it. We're in the middle of the harlot's destruction. Start seeing these things more and more. More fires, more earthquakes, just like we read, and people won't believe, they'll be blind. Eating and drinking while it's all happening like they always did. These things were always true. Eating and drinking while they're being destroyed, during their whole life. Deceived, eating and drinking, getting married. Party time, it's just a big party for kids. Party now because destruction's coming. That's why it's being done. It's laughing and partying because it's in destruction. That's why it wants to party so badly. Spiritually, but even literally, it manifests so often. What do people want to party so badly for? Why do they want to go to concerts and scream and party and get naked and drunk and party all the time? Because they're in destruction. It's noisy. It's wicked. You have to flee from there instantly from all the noise, you know. That's what they need. They need more noise to drown out their torment that they're in. Everyone not seeing. It's tormented day and night in the presence of the Lamb. And his people are tormented day and night in the presence of Sodom and Gomorrah. That's not for Lot. It's not for Sodom only. It's a spiritual teaching that's always true for his people. His people were always tormented in this world because of its wicked ways and its beliefs and its evil it does constantly. It becomes actual disgust without pride and condemnation. It's learning to hate evil, that the fear of the Creator, the fear of Yahuwah is to hate evil. It's part of a big part of his fear is to hate evil. He hates evil. He's angry at the wicked every day. Yes, there is a way to do what he's doing when he gives it to his people to do, to see and do, to be angry at evil every day. Obviously, those in darkness are not angry at evil. That's all they do all day long. How could they be angry at evil? It's their home, it's their world. It's who and what they are in the heart already. It's just the cheap masquerade and a cover like Adam and Eve in the church world. It's just the skin over the wolf, like our Messiah taught. Expose them all to be. Jerusalem, Christianity, the religious people that say they believe in God, don't know him, but their father is the devil, and his works they will do, Messiah said right to their face. And Jerusalem is called spiritually Sodom and Egypt. All of Jerusalem His people, the many called that say they believe, that is the connection, is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. They're no different than the beast, no different than the world in the heart. So also Christianity, the same spirit, the many called of the kingdom, of Messiah now instead of Moses, are spiritually Sodom and Egypt. And if anything, so often worse, because it's a greater sin to claim certain things and be connected to him and his word like that and come in his name like that and be still Sodom and Egypt in the heart. That's even worse. Greater judgment it will be for them than those that were never religious at all. They tell you little bits of truth in this world, like it's like it can't be hidden. It's being pressured to come out of the devil too. Being all things are being revealed, well, to those who see, but I mean, it's like it's coming out of creation and it's just blind. You know, these goats out there and beasts, they're goats. They're the greatest of all time in this world, meaning that they're the least. They're the worst. Whoever's the greatest in this world is the least, and whoever wants to be greatest in the kingdom must be the least and a servant of all, not rising above anyone in their mind and heart. Who's doing that in the heart and mind? Oh, no big deal. It's just since it's spiritual, you could just say the words and there it is. I'm God. Yeah, yeah, I'm below people. Done. That's how it's taken because it's blind. It's what it does with all his truth. Yeah, yeah, I'm that. Yeah, sure. Because it thinks other people are just as blind as it constantly. No one else can see that no one has been healed. They don't believe in healing or power. That's why the Pharisees are following after him like a beast follows its prey, saying, "Who is this man? Who is this man?" Saying to the parents, "Was he actually blind? Was he blind? It can't be that he's blind. Nobody's ever been healed like that. From birth to be blind. Yes, he's old enough. You can talk to him." And they feared the Pharisees. See, there was that fear there, afraid to say things because of them. There's like a power they have over, it's a judgment, and people have this wicked fear of men like that. But in the face of his people, though, oh, it's something different. They're the cowards. All of a sudden, they're the ones running away. They weren't tough after all. It's just Wizard of Oz acting tough. It's wizardry and magicians. Egyptians, but the magicians and wizards, sorcery, spells over people to control them and lusting to have everything in their own name. They own people and just exchange it like merchandise. They don't care about them. The only thing a beast can care about is itself and that it's getting fed. That's all it cares about. When a beast devours life, it doesn't care about life. It's a joke, it's a masquerade. Nasty world we live in. Nasty deception. Nasty delusion. To be seen by those who trust in the Creator and Messiah. He'll show us all these things that we need to see. Oh, it's worse now than it's ever been because of technology, because of exaggerating all these things that always existed. They're ready to unleash the ultra beast, and the whole world will marvel and wonder after the anti Messiah. All those that don't know him will end up doing that at the end. There's nothing they can do about it. They will do it. Doesn't matter if they say they won't. That's just like, oh, I won't betray you. I swear, I'll never betray you. And then he goes and betrays Messiah. How much worse for those that don't know him? It doesn't matter that someone says, I won't do this or I won't do that. They'll do it anyways. Delusion is sin. I still have a hard time believing in myself that it's going to manifest and is manifesting. The beast comes, it goes away, and it comes back again. It does this constantly. The world's always done this. Snake sheds its skin, and the new name is like the opposite new name of those that are of the Father. When the snake sheds its skin and becomes someone else with a new name, it's still a snake. But that's the best Satan can do, though. It's still a snake. Whereas Paul, or Saul, becomes the Apostle Paul, becomes the new man in Messiah. But a snake that does that sheds its skin, and it's still a snake. Its new name, it's a lying wonder and a deception. Yeah, maybe the beast will have something to do with that, where it's come and it goes away and then it comes back again. I don't know how it'll all pan out, but the Father proves and tests all things, so he's going to prove it and make it manifest that the spiritual understandings were always true, that everyone marveled and wondered after the beast since the beginning of creation that don't know him. Going to prove it. I don't know what world we live in. The devil's hunting. The devil's looking with cameras everywhere. That's why it gives us phones with cameras and GPS so everyone can be tracked and he knows where everyone is. The devil's searching and seeking out the elect to kill them. That's what it's leading up to. So a devil says, shh, and puts the hush finger up. Shh, I'm a devil. It's wicked. They want to kill the elect, and they'll kill an untold amount of people to get to them. They don't care. They don't care about anyone. They'll murder whoever and whatever's necessary. This country is like the utter fulfillment of a widow that sits alone and will not see destruction, will not see sorrow. Because it says that, boom, we read in Revelation, But, spiritually, this is always true within. This is true within. Someone saying that in their own mind and heart, and then they're in destruction. But for a nation, it will be true for the nation itself. That's her pride screaming, her pride that we the people. It's divided. It's as divided as it can be. It's more divided now than any other time in history. We the people is a joke. It was created to conquer and divide and come to this grand fulfillment. That's why it was created. That's why it blends all the religions together so it can control them all and bring them back to one. And that is the prophecy. That's what the devil wants to do. You have to conquer and divide and confuse even more and further. And that's how you can bring them back and control everyone. And that's what all things are going right now. 5G is just to control people more. Digital money only is just to control people more. Corona, just to control. And when famine and more plagues come, time's getting short. This country is disappearing, going down, along with the world. So the Messiah has come to his people already. Always been true. But yes, he's coming for salvation though. And it will be an utterly blind, lawless world, just like Moses came down and saw the people worshiping Baals and golden calves and whatever, they created their own gods spiritually in the heart. Messiah, it's always true, it's always true. But at the end, that's what it will be. The many worshiping their own gods and false gods. It's going to be a destruction. Jerusalem was destroyed. It's a type of the destruction of the many called in this world at the end. Every temple is going to fall. Every church building is going to, not one stone left on another. Christianity, who is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, which is all over the world and not just one location. Utter destruction. Biggest earthquake ever, because the last was only a type of things to come. Yes, it's true that when Jerusalem was destroyed, carnal Jerusalem, and it was over, not accepted anymore. That was the greatest destruction that there ever was or would be, because it was over forever and not accepted anymore. A type of the real destruction at the end of this age. And it will be the worst and final real destruction that there ever was or would ever be, the spiritual fulfillment. Understanding the types, that everything was fulfilled once already. And it's fulfilled again. Fulfilled with Moses once, and then it's fulfilled again in Messiah. So the destruction of the harlot is fulfilled once at the end with Jerusalem being destroyed. And it's fulfilled again. And she's not in one location now. She's spread all over the earth, fornicated with all the kings of the earth. The prophecy's looking pretty close to complete. She fornicates with all the kings of the earth and nations. And look at the reality we're in today. She spreads her abominations with all the kings of the earth. And the beast is going after her now, because it's put in their mind to be of one mind to go and destroy the harlot now. There's some kind of enmity that will be put in there for whatever reason or cause that they say. Doesn't matter. It will be a severe enmity, a blinding judgment and delusion, so that judgment gets completed, so that the harlot's starting to get destroyed. Everything that's true is evil to them, and they'll condemn it as evil. Everything that's good is evil to them, and they'll condemn it as evil. Every prophecy that's actually true and good, because it's true, is evil to them, and they'll condemn it as evil. Because they're connected to it themselves. It's not just their system, it's their choice, their religion, their God that you're just speaking of going to be destroyed. The Creator is going to destroy everyone. All the wicked will be destroyed. Yeah, it's personal. They themselves will be destroyed, because the beast has to be destroyed. Very offensive. That's the very thing they're holding on to all their life. All right, I think I gotta go now. So you seek care, seek truth from above. Whatever the Father gives, it's always going to be fire to someone who hates him. That's all he's ever shown me. Someone out there gaining and gaining and gaining popularity and growing. It's because they're in and of the world. That's why they keep growing. It's like an absolute. It's just an absolute. It's just obvious. His people can't be loved by this world. They're hated. How could the world raise it up?